They are starving children. They are taking away health care from human beings that need it to live. They are picking up people off the streets. They are doing 1,000 other things, which we can't even begin to name. But they're in our name that they're doing them. Cory Booker stood up last night, and you may have seen it, and finally, I think, spoke for a lot of us. And a few other Democrats have had enough. And he was in a debate with Amy Klobuchar, another Democrat, who I like. I've met before, nice person, but this isn't a time for being nice. This isn't a time for being accepting. This isn't a time for saying, oh, I'd rather just sort of get along, even if they're abrogating the Constitution. This isn't a time. This is a time when people stand up and they protect democracy.
That was New Jersey Senator Cory Booker this week in our nation's capital, pushing back on comments made by Minnesota's own Senator Amy Klobuchar. This surrounds a bill providing funding for police, which Booker objected to, accusing the Trump administration of weaponizing funding by canceling the money in blue-leaning states.
Committees for a reason, and we have hearings for a reason. And you can't do one thing on Police Week and not show up and not object and let these bills go through and then say another a few weeks later in a big speech on the floor. So I like to show up, and I can't help it if someone couldn't change their schedule to be there.
Senator Booker did not appreciate Klobashar's comment.
Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right.
That means you have to be a little bit nasty, a little bit mean, a little bit in their faces. That's what you got to be. Okay? They're arresting Democrats who are even trying to check out their ICE facilities. So Cory Booker stood up and made a speech, a rousing speech, calling other Democrats into action and saying, essentially, we're being complicit. And, I'd like to give him a round of applause for that, because in the end, if you're not doing every single damn thing to expose these guys, if you're not fighting them, I wrote a Substack on this the other day when I wrote about Roy Cooper getting in the race in North Carolina, which is so important. No more of the poll-tested crap. Show people your passion. Show people how horrified you are by what they're doing. Again, they are starving children. They are taking away health care from human beings that need it to live. They are picking up people off the streets. They are doing 1,000 other things, which we can't even begin to name. But they're in our name that they're doing them. Okay? They're horrific. And this, the corruption is just mind-boggling. So Cory Booker,
to me, is the problem with Democrats in America right now. Is we're willing to be complicit to Donald Trump to let this pass through when we have all the leverage right now there is to say, if you're as passionate about police as we are, then pass bills out of this body that will help the police officers in Washington, that will help the police officers in Illinois, that will help the police officers in New Jersey, that will help the police officers in New York. Don't be complicit to the President of the United States, who we both know doesn't understand that language. Oh, please, don't hurt blue states. We are standing at a moment where our president is eviscerating the Constitution of the United States of America, and we're willing to go along with that today. No, not on my watch. I stand against this. It is a violation of our Constitution for the President of the United States to ignore the will of Congress and decide which states are eligible to grant and which are not. Well, we know something in New York and New Jersey. I was a Newark elected official when 9/11 happened. I saw my first responders charging into those buildings. I know what police officers do every day. My amendment was just called the poison pill. That's ridiculous. What my amendment does, it says the police officers in New Jersey are just as important as the police officers in North or South Dakota.
Even if they didn't vote for Trump. I know, crazy.
In New York are just as important as the police officers in Texas. It says the police officers in California are just as important as the police officers in Alabama. Why would we go along with a president who is violating our Constitution time and time again? When in the history of this body, Democrats and Republicans used to stand up for their turf, These could easily pass. Put a simple amendment that says, you know what? You can play games however you want, President Trump. But when it comes to resources for police officers, no games. Today, I stand and fight for the Constitution. I stand and fight against this president. And heck yeah, I'm going to stand and fight for the police officers from the great state of New Jersey. I object.
But that was a pretty good, the fact that he was standing up to his own party, and that was a pretty good sort of summation of how so many of us feel out here. Why do we think people like Mamdani are winning? Why do we think there's this populist rage on the left? Because again, these are not normal times. Okay, this is not a time when you say, "Oh well, yeah, let's split the difference." Oh yeah, blue slips over. Let's debate that over which judges get on there. They have systematically over 30 years now, longer than that, have stolen every bit of power. They've stolen Supreme Court justices. Mitch McConnell has not followed the Constitution to allow people to have hearings. Okay, he got behind Citizens United to dump money into our system. You know the list of offenses. It isn't just Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the end result of everything they've done since Reagan to destroy the middle class, okay? To allow stock buybacks instead of making, so for their shareholders instead of putting it into their workers. CEOs ballooning pay, middle class being destroyed. They are attacking us every day, constantly. And we are not fighting back in a way that right now, when people are disappearing on streets and losing basic benefits, and we're creating a two-tier society, it doesn't resemble the economic society we were from the 30s to the 80s. It doesn't resemble a democracy anymore. Louis Brandeis, great Supreme Court justice, once said, you can either have a great disparity of wealth or you can have a democracy. You can't have both. Well, Peter Thiel said, you can either have capitalism or democracy. You can't have both. I choose capitalism. I like Louis Brandeis' version better. They're taking Peter Thiel's version. Understand where we are and get that fucking angry about it, because you need to be. And it is insane to me that there aren't more of these folks getting this angry about all of this. But I look at that picture that we put up earlier of those ICE agents. I look at a picture of this innocent young man, an American citizen, though that shouldn't matter, and how he's treated, being put in a chokehold. And this guy who looked like he could be out of central casting for Mississippi Burning, with his arm around his neck, looking forward. I don't know if he knew there was a camera on or whatever, and smiling. It's fucking sickening. And right now, again, what Cory Booker had to say, we need more Democrats speaking up on this. We need more Democrats going and standing out. Was it 26 Federal Plaza, the one in New York, and these detention centers across the country, and refusing to leave? We need to make demands. There are things Democrats can do, okay? And I'm not an expert in procedure. Far from it. I worked on campaigns. I was not a Hill person. I do know, however, for the Senate to go forward, there needs to, and not have everything dragged out and take days, they need unanimous consent. Withhold it. It is worth it for this. There are masked criminals. Some of them were Jan 6 people, from what I've been told, certainly seem very white supremacist-y, or at least they're white supremacist adjacent, who are wearing masks, sunglasses, not identifying themselves, breaking car windows, pulling people out of cars, showing up at fourth grade schools to yank little girls out of their classrooms, showing up at churches to yank people out of pews. Who the fuck are these people, and what gives them the goddamn right to do that? Not our Constitution, not our laws, not our traditions, nothing here. And if you can't stand up for this, if you can't stand up to these guys, if you can't get angry, if you can't get so much righteous anger, you're ready to burst, I don't know who you are, and I don't honestly understand what it is that you believe in about America. Because that's not my America, and I get it that this stuff's happened plenty in the past. I brought up Jim Crow before, so I'm not some sort of fantasy person here. I'm not somebody who believes, oh, it was all wonderful before. Like go watch Gone with the Wind and see it from their perspective. No. Not that. But we were supposed to be better than this. We were supposed to have improved. We weren't supposed to have to J. Edgar Hoover running an institution. We were supposed to have transparency. We have let the worst human in the United States, and one of the worst in the world, and human I use lightly, this gaudy, gross, chubby, obnoxious, stupid, ignorant fool, okay, take over and have whatever his little sort of whatever his envies are, right? He's angry blue states didn't vote for him. Maryland didn't vote for him. So he allows their water to get poisoned and holds back on FEMA aid. All right. Who does that? This scumbag does. Who doesn't right away say that North Carolina will get the 100%, a swing state even, that voted for him somehow, of the money they're deserved after Hurricane Helene? This schmuck. This is the one who does that.